Fresh and
All right, welcome back to episode 60 of Fresh and Buds. I'm your host, Tommy Fresh, and you are all my buds. And I'm joined by a wonderful, wonderful bud today, Mrs. Anna Shreve. How are you doing, Anna? I'm so happy you're here.
I am feeling good, feeling spooky, feeling ready for October.
Yeah, we're going to talk about some like spooky stuff. It's October. I felt like, you know what? Let's get into the kind of Halloween spirit, and I thought, who better than Anna to have on the show? The self-proclaimed RuneBabe, as it says on Twitter. So, but before we get to all that, and we're going to chat about all that, I do want to shout out the Patreon, patreon.com/freshbudspod. I believe it's in the link tree. Please check it out. It helps keep the lights on, the mics hot. And we have something new on there, which is really cool. If you play with Talishar, and a lot of people are right now, you can get some special Fresh and Bud sleeves to use on there. And we also have the Romping Club membership card, where you get a little card, put in your wallet or whatever, and that gains you access to a special little Discord channel in the Buds Discord called the Romping Club. And it's a club where you hang out with other Romping Club members. Also, one cool thing about that is a cool place to chat while I'm doing my new live podcast, The Bud Rush Bellow. We've done, well, at the time of this podcast airing, we will have done 3 episodes of the Bud Rush Bellow, usually joined by Gary. This past week, unfortunately, he couldn't, but, you know, we had a ton of fun anyway, or at least I hope we did, because I'm recording this before that happens, but we're assuming that was an absolute success. And as always, we want to give a shout out to Greg, our producer. How you doing, Greg?
Fresh new episode of the podcast, Tommy. I could not be better.
That's good to hear. We're here with Anna. I absolutely adore you on Twitter. You bring such an awesome presence and vibe to the Flesh and Blood community. You're a RuneBlade fanatic. You're unbelievably crafty, whether it's like cakes or anything else. And importantly, you're an amazing, like, positive person in the Flesh and Blood community, which I think is very important and something that we should all value and raise up. And that's why you're here. How are you, Anna? First of all, I mean, I know I welcomed you before, but how are you today?
I said spooky, and no, I'm ready to do this. That's what I'm already feeling good. I pulled a Flameskull Furnace earlier in a loose pack. Just sorry to rub it in a little bit.
Oh my God.
So no, I'm feeling pretty good right now. I said I'm just excited for October and RuneBlade season, and now we're ready to talk about everything that spooky in the game. I love it.
Well, we were chatting a little bit before we started recording, and your loose pack luck is insane. You pulled a random pack with a Flameskull Furnace. You've opened multiple Fables. I have still not opened a single Fable, and you're just like cracking loose packs out there.
I think I'm up to Fabled was 3 or 4. I have 2 Corshams, a Grandeur, and a Blood of Drakai, and then multiple legendaries. And literally, it's just like I haven't bought a loose pack this week. I'm gonna go buy 1, 2, see what I get. And yeah, I'm surprised that someone from my LGS hasn't like tried to steal my cards in the parking lot yet. Like.
No, I was saying that, you know, I gotta start buying packs out in West Virginia, where I believe you're located, and because the Jersey packs are not not that hot right now, but we're gonna hopefully change that at some point. But I am glad you're here, and I do want to learn a little bit about yourself before we kind of get into the spooky stuff. I love spooky stuff, but I also love learning about buds, and that's what we're gonna do. First of all, where did your Flesh and Blood journey begin?
So originally, actually, my husband was the one who got into it. A new game store opened up, and we actually went and just were playing board games a lot. And the manager of the game store, Kayla, she started trying to just like figure out like what kind of games, because my husband was like, hey, like I'm interested in getting into, you know, the TCG world again. Like, what do you suggest? And she brought up Flesh and Blood. And so he was like, yeah, no, I'll do it. Like, I'll give it a try. So he went and there's only a few people in the community, and like I just started tagging along. I actually just brought baked goods every week. Like everyone just knew me as the girl who just brought food, and so like didn't really play the game. I usually sat there and worked on my dissertation and fed people. And then literally, like, I kid you not, like, it was like the end of February, beginning of March. I actually had a dream. Like, I'm not making this up. Like, I had a dream that I learned to play Flesh and Blood. And like, I had already become friends with some of the people who were playing. And then, of course, my husband, I mentioned having this weird dream to them. And I was like, it felt really fun in the dream. And they're like, you know what? We can make that happen. And so they went and they actually went ahead and they put together a Dash Blitz deck for me. And so I was like, yeah, you know, I'll give this a shot. And so at first I really was kind of like iffy on it because I really had never played a TCG before. And so I was like, you know, I'm not sure yet. So I decided I was going to go to the calling with some friends in Indy and not compete, but I was going to actually go to the zoo while they were there because the zoo was nearby. And on our way, they found out that the third person for their team Blitz event couldn't make it. And I had just brought my the Dash deck along with me just to, you know, in case they wanted to play some games in the hotel room. And they're like, hey, we've already paid for this. We need you to step up and be our third teammate. And I went in, only playing the game for 4 or 5 days at that point, and lost every single game. But every single person there was so great. Like they helped me actually during the games. After the games, they kind of went through different lines that would be beneficial to know and everything like that. And it just made me feel so warm and fuzzy that I was like, you know what, I'm going to continue this. And at that point I was like, okay, I need to I need to get better. And so a couple weeks later, they announced the Jersey calling with the Pro Tour. And I was like, I'm never going to get better if I don't try. And literally didn't even have a CC deck at that point. And I registered for the Jersey calling and was like, well, I don't know what I just did, if it was a good idea. So I sat down and started learning how to, deck tech, started looking up different heroes and their abilities, just like all that. And then dove headfirst after, figuring that out, because I fell in love with RuneBabe at that moment and just was like, it's downhill from here.
Yeah, well, it seems to be a common theme. Now, we did have Gary, the Viscerai waifu pillow guy, on the show last week, and obviously he fell very deeply in love with RuneBabe as well, as specifically Viscerai for him, though, understandably the OG RuneBabe everybody's gonna love. But that's such a beautiful story in a way, because like the dream, and I know that is awesome to me, because like I've had dreams about things and then like not like they came true, but I was like, oh, maybe I should do that now, which is like such a like, I don't know, destiny kind of thing, which is kind of neat to me. And to hear your positive experience in Indy, in that like Blitz like team event is kind of like what nails home like why Flesh and Blood is a little bit special, right? Well, not even a little bit special, a lot of bit special. And that's really cool. And is there, a part of you that wanted to recreate that warm and fuzzy feeling, as you put it, for other people out there?
Oh yeah, that's why whenever I first went in there, like I said, to Indy, and just like everyone was just so welcoming, and I was like, the fact that got me, so hooked. I was like, oh yeah, I can be this for other people, and just like, be that a positive person that they can come to, or if they have questions, or even if you see them at an event and be like, oh hey, like good to see you again. Like I feel like it really does just make all the difference. And I've heard just so many people say that, like almost every person at my LGS says that that's the reason that they stuck with Flesh and Blood over anything else, was truly just because of the community. Like, yeah, the game is great, but it's the community that really keeps you there and keeps you playing. I'm glad that I get to be a part of it.
It really rings true that, I mean, maybe it's because we're so desperate for people to play with, but like we see a new player and we're like, no, please come here. We'll show you everything. And we want to like just make you feel welcome. I mean, we, at my LGS, one of my LGS's, Bearded Dragon in Jersey, this past Thursday, we had a new player walk in. It's like, is this Flesh and Blood? Like, yeah. it's pretty cool. He's like, oh, I've been meaning to learn. It was like, well, we're playing sealed, so go sign up. And then he sat down. We just taught him everything, and it feels good. I don't know. It's pretty awesome. Now, as a player, you said you wanted to get better and get good, as the gamers say. You signed up for the calling in Jersey. Do you have any specific goals as a player as you've learned the game more and more and become so integrated into the community?
So if anything, I said it a little bit ago, this was actually my first TCG ever. Like, I mean, I collected Pokemon cards as a kid, like, most of us probably, but never played the game. I had the Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Masters guide on DVD, but I think it's actually still in plastic. Like, I never actually delve into the more competitive aspects of any TCGs. And if anything, like, it made me actually really afraid then as I got older and like knew that a lot of my friends were into them, that like I never had played these. And so even then when like new TCGs would pop up and they're like, oh, let's try it, they at least knew the mechanics, so it like came to them a lot easier. So if anything, like with my goals, it's really trying to get more people that probably have just never played a TCG before, because if anything, it's a terrifying hurdle to really like go in and be like, I truly do not know the first thing about deck building, or, with like the idea of resources or mana or whatever it would be in whatever game, like knowing how to like handle that. And because again, like a lot of the people that you play against, at least even if they're brand new, know some of the mechanics from other games. And so if anything, it's just kind of trying to help people who might be afraid to get into their first TCG really kind of overcome and get some confidence to go in and like get started and everything.
I mean, that's very admirable goal. I think that's very cool. And I will say, I think, and I'm sure you found this at this point as so far, that I run into a ton of people playing this game that never played a TCG before, which was crazy to me, because I was like, oh man, like how would I even approach something like Flesh and Blood, as a total newcomer? And it's interesting. Have you found that to be the same? Because obviously it's true for yourself, but have you met a lot of other people that it was their first TCG?
Oh yeah, that's what I even like there in Indy, whenever I actually like was first introducing myself, because I sat down and was like, hi, I'm Anna. Please bear with me. I've been playing for 4 days now and I should be at the zoo right now. So I was like, and if anything, a lot of people were like, hey, and like, they would introduce themselves and like, don't worry. And like even a couple people I talked to there even said that, it was their first game, like their first TCG, and that it just kind of like, they just liked it because, they either some friends had gone into it or they, decided to get into one, and they just heard that, the mechanics of it were pretty easy to start to pick up and everything like that. So no, I found that a lot of people, it was their first. But again, there's always room to get more people in, and so more people will be there first. So
we'll get there. I think we're growing on numbers slowly every day. Now, here's a question. Now, I know you mentioned you were playing Dash Blitz initially. Is Blitz your format of choice, or have you erred into the side of CC?
I go back and forth now. So whenever I first started, I think I ended up like getting frustrated at first with the speed of it, because I started being like, well, that's what I just feel like that I don't have a chance. Like if I don't get a good first couple of hands, that there's really no way back from fixing it and everything like that. And I started learning, as I learned the game better, the mechanics better, I was like, oh, like, there's more skill to it than I realized. There's ways to fix your hands. And so, because I originally was all Blitz, then I went all CC, and now I'm going back into the world of, especially just in the casual, like if I'm just wanting to sit down and play some games with friends, Blitz is it's a lot more fun than, if someone comes over, us having to sit down and us playing for an hour. And then also I can easily build a lot more decks, so that way I can if I don't want to, I have my Briar Blitz. That's what my husband has, a Chain Blitz that I can sometimes I'll grab and toy around with. I have my KO Blitz that's really fun, whereas CC sometimes is just a little bit more like, it's a lot more effort to build the decks and fix them. So from the competitive standpoint, I definitely think I prefer CC, but just for casual play, Blitz is just so much fun.
Oh, yeah, 100%. Now, I did want to touch on the most recent banned and suspended announcement that we had this week and get your thoughts on it a bit. So, Classic Constructed, we saw the banning of Pulse of Eisenloft. And then in Blitz, they unsuspended Sonata.
Yes.
They banned with the Bloodsheath Skeleton. It was so confusing because I was like, wait a second, wasn't it like one together? I don't know. But Bloodsheath Skeleton got banned. The boots, Stormstrider boots, they got banned, and then I feel like I'm missing one more. But
that's what because I know York and UPF.
York, which I've seen on Twitter. You play York at some UPF, which is crazy bold, and obviously you have a great UPF group because I feel like I would be so hated if I tried to do that.
No, that's why. If anything, that's why I was talking to some of the people from our LGS today, and literally they said that they don't think that we can do UPF old way ever again. Like, if anything. York UPF was so much more fun for all of us. Like, I mean, I let them know ahead of time I was planning on bringing it, and I double checked. Like, I understand, like, you don't want a complete stranger sitting down in front of you being like, all right, put them together. Like, and being like, my legendaries, like, my shards in there, my, like, you know, my instance in there, like, what are you doing? And but I mean, since it was people that like more casually and people we know, like, we can never go back. So luckily, I feel like if I understand the banned and restricted, it's still okay in armories. So
sure.
my York dreams live, and hopefully one of these days here soon, I can get my hand on the actual hummingbird instead of using my digital proxy that I had there the other day. Oh, Mask Counting Links. That was the one.
Oh, Mask. Yes. So they really wanted to hammer the nail of the coffin for not 5. Maybe he's not dead, but like, so I don't play a lot of Blitz. I will admit, though, I'd pay attention to it because I have to. And it seems like Fi was pretty intense. Now, I got to shout out to Mo Bogsley, who I'm sure is just absolutely devastated by the Stormstrider boots getting banned here. I mean, it's the only deck he likes to play. I'm very sorry, Mo, but you know what? That deck is also a little crazy, and you know, the game ends too quick. Like you were saying, sometimes Blitz is too fast. Now, how do you feel about these bans? Because you did lose Bloodsheath Skeleton, but gained Sonata.
No, that's why, if anything, I mean, the Sonatas, I don't think ever really were the problem, because unless, I mean, you're throwing your whole hand into them a lot of the times, then, you know, you might really only get 1 or 2 attacks out of it. And then, and even then, who's to say that they're going to have go again? So I definitely think that the Sonata moving to that was the right move. Definitely sad that, you know, the chances of getting the Skeleton back are now slim to none ever, because there was always that little piece of me that just I wanted it back, because I really only got a taste of it like for the brief period, because when I started playing back in March, I think it was legal for maybe 2 weeks before it actually ended up being banned. So I got that little taste of true power, and then it was taken away from me, and I wanted it back, but alas, I'll be happy with the Sonata. I still need to actually decide what non-attack I'm going to take out of Briar Blitz, because that's really that's the RuneBabe Blitz that I have. Because I really don't know. I actually took out the tomes, so I was like, which was already my like reveal the 2, and so I'm gonna go back through and actually make some changes here. If anything, the other, I forgot. I know we were talking about Blitz, but the Young Hero ban, I forgot that was also a thing. That just came up into my mind, that you can't play Young Heroes now in CC.
Yeah, I think Capolo in the Discord made a joke that it was the largest Classic Constructed banning of all time, because it was 31 cards that you can now no longer play in CC. Very funny, Capolo. I'm sure you're listening. Hi, buddy. The Young Hero thing makes sense for CC, and it was also like I don't want to play against Prism anymore, and then that one Prism player was doing well. I think it was in New Zealand Nats or maybe Australian Nats, and I think that's a overall pretty good change. Now, I guess RuneBlade's probably still fine. Kano's pretty much dead in Blitz, and then Fi is not as potent.
My husband, he had a Fi there briefly whenever it was first coming out, and then pretty much most of the LGS built Fi or Dromai Blitzes whenever Uprising first came out, and that's what with Fi, like just how easy and consistently they were able to push, the 20-ish damage turns, especially with the Mask and Pounce Link, because it's hard with me being an aggro player, like. Whenever they played Mask, I knew that Salt the Wounds punishment was coming, or some of the people put the lava burst in there because they knew I didn't block. So as soon as they saw I wasn't blocking those turns, they knew that hey, like as soon as this seemed like it was just so easy and consistent to get that punish. So if anything, like again, I'm not sad to see it go. I do feel bad for our Benji player in our store because the Mask of the Pouncing Lynx, like he relied on that double Spring Tidings turn. And pretty much it's so I know that they're trying to curve Fi. I feel bad for all the Benji players out there.
Oh yeah, pour one out for the Benji players. That's the unfortunate thing with these banned suspended lists. Sometimes it's like some people just get shot in the crossfire, and it sucks. I think there was initially, I think T-Tebow had put out like a fake one that said that Artivore was banned. And I was like, no, it's like, that's like, because I play Leviathan, I'm like, that is a card I need in that deck. Please don't do that. But of course I was being trolled. But we'll see how it all plays out. Blitz is, it's going to be an important part of Worlds. So I'm sure that's why they did it. Now, I do want to touch on the fact that, first of all, that there are many buds out there in the universe who stay away from Twitter, as it can be the worst. And I definitely empathize with that. However, I think we can both agree that Fab Twitter is the best, and that is also where we first connected, and that's where you absolutely shine. What makes Fab Twitter so great? Because I think that people should get on Fab Twitter.
I mean, I think I've said it a couple times now here, and I preach it everywhere I go that, the Fab community really is the best. It's what makes the game. And honestly, the Fab Twitter is just a reflection of that. And I know people are afraid of, what some of the toxicity online. But just like in real life, there definitely are a couple people on there that don't reflect the community values as a whole. But just like in real life, the great people vastly outnumber the people that are kind of just ruining it. And at least on Twitter, unlike in real life, there is a block button. So that's what makes it even better. But no, it's so much easier, and you can just connect with so many people. Like I said, we connected. You can connect to, all the content creators, people, to James White, to, just other players in general, to like amazing artists and everything. Get their thoughts, their opinions. I mean, a lot of the times, like I'll be going through and I'll be like, oh, this person is talking about this card in their RuneBlade deck and that they really like it. Like, I might, go give it a shot here instead of having to sit there and, going through decks online and everything and reading them. It's a really quick way for me to get some quick ideas for that, or even beyond deck building, quick ideas for, I love making Photoshops and things like that. I post those on Twitter all the time, my Photoshops and my t-shirt ideas. And it's just like, I can get ideas from that. And also like, there's memes, you get news, you get all of this stuff, and it's all in just one succinct place. And again, like, even like you can comment, and that's what I mean. I'm constantly talking to, some of the major content creators, and like I said, I had like James White himself comments on some of my posts sometimes. And I'm just like, the fact that like I can have this happen and, just via Twitter, like get these kinds of connections and talk to people and get their ideas is just so amazing. And without it, I honestly don't think that would have ever happened. So it's just, I highly recommend getting Twitter. So it's awesome.
Yeah, you get on the Twitter and just follow Fleshable people. You don't have to follow anybody else. We'll steer clear of all the negativity, and I do like that you brought up the memes, because the memes are where it's at now. There are some awesome things that we can do, I think, that kind of take that awesome energy in like that we have in Fab Twitter and then like the online community. And I think we could take that and bring it to the LGS. Now you mentioned that you, even before you play the game, you're bringing like baked goods to the LGS, which is awesome. Like that is unbelievable. I want you to come to my LGS, bring some baked goods because I love food. But what are some other ways you can like have that good energy at LGSs?
I mean, the baked goods, honestly, I kid you not, like a little bit like I would have them at the table. People would walk over and be like, grab a cookie and be like, oh, what's this game? And like, we would be like, oh, like, let us show you. But no, just that idea of just even like reaching out, like on Twitter and everything, I am able to sit there and like, you know, I can message people who might be showing interest in the game or have questions, you know, just even doing that in the LGS, being like, if you see someone who might be a little bit interested, being just kind of being an advocate. Actually, like even recently, I attended a pre-release event for another TCG, and I even just brought my Flesh and Blood. I brought my Rune Cats mat that I made on Photoshop. And that's what sat down and just was trying to be an advocate. And so people were like, oh, like interesting mat. And I was like, oh, you think it's interesting? Like, let me tell you about a game that I really enjoy. And I mean, a lot of them had heard of it and everything, but just to kind of be that like a positive person to be like, it's a great game. It's a great community. You should come check it out. Because sometimes it really does just take that person being like, hey, come check it out, for someone to be like, you know what, maybe I will. And like being like specifically like, hey, like I want to invite you to our armory that's on this day and this time. So that way it's not just kind of like, oh, you should check it out sometime. It's like hey, I'm like officially inviting you, like please come. And which I feel like on Twitter, it's kind of the same energy. It's, you know, a lot of us are advocates for the game and, you know, want to see it grow and want to spread the positivity around it. And so like just taking that energy into real life can be just so important.
It really is. And you know, I totally agree. And I love inviting people to like armories, or even like, you know, a lot of places will do like learn to plays, and like, you know, it's good to like try to show up to them if you know how to play, so you can help. You know, sometimes people are like, well, I don't have a deck. Well, I will lend you one. So, and you know, if you show up like a little bit early, we'll talk about how it works. But and like, you know, you've talked at length about your LGS, and you know, you felt pretty welcomed into your local community, and like, and do you want to give them a shout out?
Oh, yeah, no, of course. That's what I love our group. That's what, I mean, again, I feel like they have to love me because I was bringing them cookies and everything for so long. But no, I mean, they truly are some of my best friends now. They actually, I think most of them have the key code to like my door for like my house now. So like they'll just show up but no, like, they're honestly great. Like, I just want to say like, you know, Ben, Kayla, Rocky, Billy, Jeremy, Matt, Tyler, Joseph. That's what all you guys, Boba Fett, which he'll know who he is, listens. But no, they're all awesome. Like literally, truly some of my best friends now. Like again, it's just reflective of the community as a whole. And I mean, every single one of them, like, you know, I can see being lifelong friends. So just in the fact that I've like made them through Flesh and Blood, like just makes that game that much more special. So it's really awesome.
Absolutely. And you know, it's just like kind of cool to just hear like a bunch of different names get rattled off, because like it is about the people, right? And I think even like, you know, we talked about it last week. I think in the end, the results of your tournament don't really matter if you are enjoying the people that you are spending the time with, and that's very much what being, I mean, I can't speak for LSS, but very much what being in the Flesh and Blood is all about. So really cool, really awesome. I love all of those vibes. Now, let's move on to one of my favorite segments, the Fresh Faves, where I'm going to ask you a few of your favorite things in the game, favorite cards, and you're going to hopefully give me an answer. And are you ready?
I am ready. Yes.
We're going to start off with, who is your favorite hero?
I feel like this is actually about to be a shock, but it's Viserai. No, so of course, I mean, he's my boy. That's why, like I said, he was my first CC deck. I just love the whole, his play lines just can be different every single time. Every single hand, there's a different play line, and I love that it's a challenge every hand that I have to think of how to optimize and what I can use, especially the fact that, with all my different equipment, it's really like every single hand is going to be different. And then actually, like, surprisingly, KO is actually my second favorite. I wanted to give him a little shout because I sat down like at a Blitz event there in Charlotte, and there was a KO player. And when he found out that I also play KO in Blitz, that he got extra excited. So I was like, I need to throw KO in there too. He's just so much fun to play.
He just love rolling dice, I understand, believe me. What is your favorite weapon?
I feel like I'm going to get heat for this, but I mean, Rosetta, like, it's pretty. Like, it's pretty, and sometimes you don't get the 2-2 effect. Like, that's what it is. Sometimes you don't get the non-attack and the attack, so it's not.
Sometimes.
Usually you do.
I think if you're not, you're probably losing, right? I'm assuming.
Like, at that point, you're just like, oh, this is not my game today. Like, my heart was not in the cards. So, but no, that's like I said, but it really, like, I just love the greens and the colors of it too. Like, it's a pretty card too. Like, so in addition to being really, really good, and definitely probably the best RuneBabe weapon. So I'm going to be really sad when Briar LLs and I have to start basically rebuild my entire deck to do a new resource curve.
Yeah. Hope I can't come soon enough. But what is your favorite equipment? Okay,
this one was actually difficult. I probably will have to say Grasp of the Arknight again, RuneBabe. A Vis staple, but also, so I actually, unlike a lot of aggro players, like to go first, because I know usually if you go second, you get to push damage first. But I love going like first because I usually will end up pitching for Grasp of the Arknight and then just arsenaling. And basically it basically gives me a chance to filter my hand while not giving my opponent a chance to filter. And so like, it has become like, if anything, like my friends always laugh, like as soon as like, if I go first, they're always like, you're going to pitch into Grasp and Arsenal. And I'm like, nailed it. So that's it. It's just, I love it so much. And I mean, I just love the blues and the purples and everything about it. So
yeah, I mean, it's an awesome looking card, and it's a totally valid play because I can't tell you how many times that play has been done against me, and I'm like, I need to block with things because I need to fill my graveyard because I play Leviathan. But what is your favorite non-hero, non-weapon, non-equipment card? Your run-of-the-mill cards, attack actions, instants.
It's tied, but they're for the very same reason. It's Tome of the Arknight and Sonata. Basically anything that whenever I play it, I can yell "risk it for the RuneBabe biscuit" as loud as I can. That's why it becomes my favorite. So those two in particular, like, I mean, I literally have a sticker on my deck box that says "risk it for the RuneBabe biscuit."
Oh, that's so cool.
But with Viscera holding a Tudor's biscuit, which is a biscuit chain from West Virginia. So that's why it's. So those two, hands down, I love my Casino Vis style. He's so much fun.
I don't know if you saw on Twitter, I posted a picture of a bud named Emily Wang who played Nationals last week, who was playing Briar and would do a check mark on her arm every time she got Sonata hit for 2. And it was the coolest thing ever because there was like 9 check marks throughout day 1 and 2. So I might have to talk to you about getting the file for that risk it for the RuneBabe biscuit to gift to her because she is very much living that same life.
I saw that. It was awesome. I was like, that would be awesome just to get like as a tattoo or something one day. Like, just keep it on me. Like eventually my arm just be covered and intimidate and be like, oh no, this is through like hundreds of games. Like, trust me, but like still like that situation of like when you see Sonata, like you better be scared.
Yeah, it almost reminds me. I don't know if you're a big Batman fan, but there's a Batman villain. I think it's Sazaz or something like that. That every time he's like a serial killer. Every time he does, it's just like a check mark, tally mark, or whatever, which is pretty intense. Now, speaking of, I guess, serial killers, what a segue. We're here at the main topic, which is spooky season. So. When I think about the show, I like to kind of have overarching themes sometimes, or kind of like make it make sense. Like last year I did a Flesh and Blood's Giving where I kind of just talked about what everybody was thankful for. And this year I wanted to get a little bit spooky in October. We have we definitely have you on to talk a little bit about rune blades and spooky stuff in general. And we're also going to have Mansant, Ethan, coming on for some special Leviathan stuff later in the month as well. So we're getting spooky 1,000,000%. And despite rune blades being so good, right? They are the de facto horror themed class in the game. And as the self-proclaimed RuneBabe, you are beyond qualified for talking about spooky season. What do you think makes a good horror-based character?
Honestly, like, I feel like, first of all, just coloration is huge. I mean, that's what you look at the outside of maybe some of the Briar cards, like you look at the Runeblade cards and like it's those blacks, it's the purples, making it's just not very clear at first what's there. And then also like whenever you like go into, the like Viscerize and the chain cards and like actually start to look at like the details in a lot of that artwork, that's what, if anything, like I decided like to sit down and I was going through like FabDB and just looking at like Runeblade cards, like the Viscera, like my Viscera cards and everything. And I started looking, I was like, there are so many like skeletons and skulls that like I definitely did not realize were in these cards when I first actually started playing them. And if anything, that idea of like that unknown and just being like, this was been here this whole time and I had no idea that this was here. Like that was what I was like, this is what spookiness is all about. Like, oh my goodness.
Oh yeah. And the art, obviously huge part, right? Like you said, but I think even a lot of these effects in the game, can be very like horror themed in a way. Like the idea of like arcane, like, or rune chants feels very spooky in a way, right? They're like little pentagrams or whatever, almost like a pentagram that like they're being drawn and like shoot off these pings of damage, which is really, really neat. And which, kind of leads me to believe, that that Viscera has to be the king of Flesh and Blood Halloween. Is there anybody giving Viscera a run for his money for the king of Fab Halloween?
I mean, I don't think so. That's why I think he's the perfect combination of like creepy, but also like just like intimidating, scary. Because I feel like, Chain has the intimidate, like the kind of the creepiness to him. And then like you got your KOs and your Reinars that are kind of like the intimidating, scary. But I think Viscera is just this like perfect combination of all of it that just embodies everything spooky and everything Halloween has to offer. And it just makes him perfect to be the king.
Yeah. And, I think Chain can be up there, but Chain's also like kind of has that look where he could almost be like a, this is going to be a dated reference, maybe not even because it's still very popular now, but then Edward Cullen type spooky where, he's kind of cute, maybe like, maybe, but Viscera has like the helmet. We have no idea what he looks like. Well, except for Blitz, but he's LL and Blitz.
RIP. But no, I mean, that's what, and like, you never know. I was like, the mask can change a person. So you really never know what's underneath the mask. And again, that unknown, you don't know what he looks like under there. Makes him extra scary. But no, and then like, yeah, Chain, if anything, like the Soul Shackle and like his allies, if anything, they're scarier looking.
Yes.
Like, so if anything, that kind of, I think, also dampens him a bit, is probably like the fact that he has other things associated with him that are even scarier than he is. That it kind of, kind of knocks him down a few pegs as in his running for the king.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, every king needs his queen. I think we got to go with Leviathan as being the queen of Flesh and Blood Halloween. I think that's without a doubt because, Briar, she's Runeblade, but Briar's like feels more like a druid, and I think maybe that's kind of what the idea was there. But Levi's brutal.
Oh yeah, she's terrible. The tentacles, like in her adult form, and then in her young form, like the blood dripping down her face. Like if anything, like I feel like I could probably do like a Levia cosplay, like a young Levia, and like walk down the street, and any kid will see me like start crying just because like, that is terrifying. And then just like, and I know even her cards and like just the brute art and just everything like that, like around it, it's just like the shadow brute cards are, oh my goodness, like sometimes I'm like, I don't even really want to look at this because like I'm going to get distracted by how just terrifying this is. And so just like she's definitely the queen. That's what her and Viscerai, I ship it. It's all good.
Yeah, I mean, who knows? I mean, we I know we're going to get some pretty crazy lore coming out in the next couple of months, so I wouldn't be surprised if something like that kind of comes up. But it, I'm a big horror film buff, and to me, Viscerai feels like that kind of classic haunted house, paranormal kind of like horror flick, and then Levia's out there being like the creature feature, like like absolutely disgusting, brutal stuff, gory, but that's where I would land for the king and queen. And who better to talk about those than us, the RuneBabe and me, who likes Levia. I don't have a nickname.
Blood creepy like giant monsters, like sign me up. That's what I've been going through my Hulu like every day and being like, all right, which horror movie am I watching today, just to like while I'm sitting there working, like trying to organize my Uprising cards. So it's been great vibes all around.
Yeah. Now I think like one thing that is great about holidays and certain seasons that are great for things like Flesh and Blood is how it allows the game to do special things to get people out playing and just kind of get excited about the game in a different way. Like for example, I know you hadn't started playing at the time, but in December last year, LSS's armory kits were the holiday themed cracked baubles, which were very cool. And I have like a whole page of them in my binder. Like I was like, that's so cool. I want them. I know I'll probably never use them, but they're going to just kind of be my swag in my binder. What are some cool things that you think that like local game stores can do like this month with Flesh and Blood? For example, Realm Games was doing the Battle Hardened this month, is doing like a cosplay contest. Definitely going to be Halloween heavy centric and stuff like that.
So I mean, like outside of the the promos, I mean, I also like that my husband luckily has the cracked baubles. And I know the cracked bauble playmat was like the playmat to get.
Oh yeah.
And so I know sometimes like for the LGS like specifically it might be difficult to get make things like that or find things like that. But I mean, even something as simple as just like offering to do some sort of like Halloween party thing, like have someone like I don't know, like offer to bring cookies and things like that, like to bring people in, encourage people maybe to dress up, like have like mini cosplay contests even like at the local level to be like, hey, like, or like come dressed in costume. Or I mean, even if you don't want to do something that over the top, like maybe even do like a specific maybe like a Monarch drafter sealed, or if you actually have the Arcane allotment, like Arcane drafter sealed, to like do some of these like more the darker play sets and everything that kind of scream Halloween a little bit more, and be like specifically like being like, I mean, it might even be a whole combination, be like, hey, like we're gonna bring some Halloween treats and do Arcane sealed or like Monarch draft, and just kind of have like a Flesh and Blood Halloween thing there locally. And it might entice some new players to come in too at the same time to kind of check it all out, because people, when food's involved, people usually tend to check it out a little more.
Oh yeah, I do love that you brought cookies right away, and I was like, well, she's got a point. That, and I do like what you're saying, like almost like what if maybe it couldn't really be an armory because that'd be tough, but like maybe like a learn to play event where like, hey, listen, it's a learn to play, or like this is a casual tournament where you can only play Viscerai, Chain, Levia, Rhinar. I mean, obviously it's just RuneBlades and Brutes that I'm naming, but there's some other spooky stuff that I'm sure I'm just blanking on. Dromides can be kind of spooky.
Oh yeah, trust me, whenever I saw an Arclight Sentinel being thrown down, like that was a pretty scary thing.
That's
like
terrifying.
Like trust me.
It's like the the biblically accurate angels. Those were always terrifying. That was what Prism was like. So,
Oh yeah.
yeah, I think that's a cool thing that LGSs can do, and I hope that if any are out there, maybe could throw something together, to get some folks out there playing and kind of get in the Halloween spirit too, which is always a lot of fun. Now, I do want to talk a little bit about Spooky Illusionist Hero. I've mentioned the Spooky Illusionist Hero many times on the show. I wanted to get your opinion on it. So with Prism was very centric on yellow pitch cards, and she's also a light hero. And, whatever. She did her thing, and glad she's gone. Good riddance. Dromai, very centric on red pitch cards. Dromai's still doing her thing, and she's very cool. I do like Dromai. We obviously have to be getting a blue pitch illusionist. And what makes me think that we're going to get a blue pitch illusionist is two cards that we're actually going to talk about in a bit here, but is Ghostly Touch and Frightmare, right? So Frightmare costs 3, needs things to be popped. Ghostly Touch activates for 3, needs things to be popped. What do you think? Are we going to get almost like a Halloween themed illusionist that cares about blue pitches?
I mean, I think that'd be incredible, especially because after with Everfest with the blue auras also, like they kind of started making that like a little bit heavier on the blue, which I mean, yeah, in Prism they are great. They're a pain to deal with the whole Spectra thing. And but no, like with the Ghostly Touch especially, like I felt like some of the artwork for Illusionist has started moving into a weird direction, because you have the Draconic Illusionist, which is very, Dromai looking, and then the more generic ones from the more like the Semblance, Transmortify, like those were a little more like still the purples and the blues, but like the Ghostly Touch and the Frightmare have just gone into this completely different realm. That's like because almost every other card, like it's not often like this weird like its own art category. Like most other art, like you can tell goes with what hero. Those are definitely two that are like, this just doesn't seem right. So I definitely like agree that a Spooky Illusionist could be lurking. And then especially because it's like, Frightmare, I don't know a single person who's ever got Frightmare off. Like if I would love to hear about someone who has and their experience. Ghostly Touch even, like I know it's played a lot. But if anything, I know with people who use it in the Dromai Guardian matchup, like a lot of the times they don't end up getting it off a lot of the times. Usually the game ends before. So I feel like we're definitely due for maybe someone that those things work a lot better for, who definitely would be a little on the creepy side.
Yeah, I'm hoping. I mean, maybe I'm just up on my soapbox and I just want to keep talking about it till I'm right, and then I can say I was right, and maybe I'm being a little self-indulgent, but I do think it'd be really cool. And, I think there's some validity to what's going on there, and I'm very excited about it. And every time I see cards like Ghostly Touch, like Frightmare, I'm like, it's got to be coming. But speaking of cards, I thought it'd be fun to kind of end on each of our top 5 spookiest cards in Flesh and Blood based on whatever, right? So my number 1, it's going to be Ghostly Visit for obvious reasons. Also, I really enjoy playing it, but it's beyond just the art. Ghostly Visit is spooky in the fact that she comes back from the banished zone to haunt us continually, which is very cool. My number 2 is Ghostly Touch, which we just talked about, which the art is also really cool. I have opened so much of that card. There's part of me that hates it, but I do really enjoy it, and I'm hoping it's really good one day. But just the hands, right? They're so cool. Dread Screamer, I had to throw in a Leviathan card, but Dread Screamer is like spooky. Like if you look at that card, it's like holding on to the guy's head and then also is staring at you, and it's so unbelievable. Like that's like the creature feature card. Like I look at that, I'm like, that is what nightmares are made of. And I did throw in Mordred Tide.
Hey.
Yeah, I mean Mordred Tide just looks like it's just spooky. It's just like totally, you're like, it's like a graveyard or whatever, and the mist is kind of coming down, and I look at that and I'm like, well, this is something that I want to see in a movie, and like this is so cool. And then finally, a bounding Demagon, which, God, I love that art. Just him, like the guy walking there with the lantern, and then like him being like kind of like followed by like these like dead spooky like shadow RuneBabe nonsense, and I don't know, it's terrifying to me and I love it. What do you think of those?
No, that's what, if anything, like when I first saw your list, I was just like, I could picture those cards in my head, and I was like, oh yeah, like that definitely, like the Bounding Demagon, the Mortar Triad, the Dead Dread Screamer, goodness, all of those. It's just like, again, like it's like the purples, the blues, those dark colors. Like you sit there and you're like, how many skeletons and skulls can I actually like count in this picture? Like make it almost like a game. Like that's what they're just. And I mean, also things like Mortar Tide, in addition to just being a creepy card, whenever you see it, it's also kind of terrifying.
Oh,
so
yeah. I hate seeing that card.
You're in for a world of hurt, in addition to being scared a little bit by the art. But no, I definitely agree that all those are great options and definitely embody Halloween.
Oh, yeah. Now, what are your 5, Anna?
Well, I also had to put Mortar Tide on there because, again, I mean, I get a little bit of joy playing it, but just the mist coming down, and I feel like it's a reference to like something Shakespearean. Like I forget. Like,
oh, maybe
I'll have to look that up. But no, that's what. And again, just I know the terror in my opponent's eyes as soon as I put it down. Like it's just something that can't be beat. And then my number 2 actually is Frightmare.
Because understandably,
like it's just so terrifying. I remember seeing that and I was like, this has to be a fake card. Like there's no way that, like, it's kind of a little, like with the colorations, almost a little cartoonish, but it's just like when you start looking at it, you're like, this truly is a thing of nightmares. And in addition to that, like it's also kind of terrifying to see one in the pack you open, because you're like, when am I ever actually going to play this? And hopefully if there's a spooky illusionist
one day.
But like I know that my friend who is he was a Prism main, and then also was a like he's gone to Dromai since then. He actually says that like anytime he sees Frightmare, he just wants to kind of cry a little bit. Like it's the scariest card to like you can think of to potentially open, because he's just like, I never want to see it. But that's what, there was the cosplay there at Nationals though. Like I want to give that like
so great,
embodied the spookiness too. Like that, even like that also put it up to number 2 for me. It was just actually seeing that brought to life was just like, I was like, oh, this card really is just terrifying. So number 3 was actually the first card that I sat down and was like, this is terrifying. When I first started actually like putting my decks together, it's actually Consuming Volition. So it's not that traditional dark color. It's a lot more of those like light, bright blues. But I still remember looking at it, and you originally see the woman and the man in the lake, and it was that all of a sudden then my eyes caught the thing behind the man, and I'm like, oh my gosh, that so scary, like so terrifying. Like it's kind of brought me back to the idea of like when you're afraid of sharks in a pool, like and everything. Like it kind of elicited that same feeling. So like that's definitely in there.
I'm looking at Consuming Volition right now because I had forgotten a little bit about what the art was, and I just need to remind myself. And that is so terrifying. I just kind of say, because that is some brutal art, and like really well done. But yeah, continue. Sorry, I just had to say, I was like, I forgot what was on that card, because all I do remember is the 2 people, but then I forgot that there was like the monster behind them.
Because it almost like blends into the water, and like I was going back earlier, like that's the thing that I think makes things scary, is that unknown, and like you don't catch it right away. And so that was one of those, like I said, you don't see it at first, and I'm like, oh, if I was that guy, like I don't know, like I mean, I'm probably already dead, but like I would be like, oh. But next I had to, with a little bit of throw a little shadow shout out. I know it's a shadow action, the Mutated Mass. That thing kind of creeps me out. Like again, I know it's a little bit more like golds, and I know it's not really played much because what its effect is it's twice as much as the different colors of your pitch zone for attack and defense. And so I know it's not really played because it's just not really a consistent card. But just that like that glob, that you just see a glob at first, and then when you zoom in, you're like, oh, there's like skeletons, like there's bodies, there's these monsters that you don't even know. And it's just like, it kind of, that little bit of like, oh, that's kind of creepy.
Oh, yeah.
Plus, it's called the mutated mass. Like that name alone is just kind of like gross and creepy sounding.
And you can play it from your banish zone, so it does come back. Now, I will say, I know you just said that not many people play it. I played one copy at Nats, and I wish I didn't because it is also scary to see in your opening hand, and you can't block with it.
No, that's what, yeah, like when I was trying to think of these cards earlier, and that was actually one of the ones, because I was trying to think of what my cards, like my spooky cards would be, and I actually asked someone, I was like, what do you think would be the like a scary card? And that was one that they said right off the bat, because they're just like, never want to see that card ever. So I was just like, you know what, fair. And then I looked up the art and I'm like, yeah, that is terrifying. And then last for me, go back to RuneBabe, Dread Triptych. Where it's like, yeah, like I mean I love the card, like it that's why it's a great blue card, great attack, makes lots of rune chance, so it's a great card. But that's like there's like the bodies kind of coming up from like that blue and purple sludge. Like you have the guy that's like right there in the corner that's kind of like almost looks like he's like screaming, melting. Then you just have like all the guys in the background. Like it's like, I don't know, it's just kind of embodies everything scary to me, and all in addition to being a great card that I love playing. So no, I definitely think that those are my top 5. But again, there was a lot of honorable mentions and second places that I wish I could have talked about.
Well, that was a great list. I was actually like the whole time just looking at all the different arts while you were talking about them, and I was like, these are like so much cooler than I think a lot of people give them credit for. And you know, Flesh and Blood, you know, they're doing all right with the art out there. I think it's amazing. So, but hey, Anna, this was awesome. It was a great time. Thank you for so much for coming on. This was a wonderful, wonderful time. And I want to give you the floor here to plug anything you'd like to plug.
That's what, no, I really appreciate it. Like this was a lot of fun. That's why, no, if you all want to follow me on Twitter, I am at AnnaBorder2, because I'm actually I am a snowboarder, so that's where that Twitter name came into effect. You'll find me, I'm RuneBabe in my name, of course. And that's what, no, just I'm trying to think of anything else. That's why check me on Twitter, and I'll probably think of other things to plug, and I'll plug them there when I think of them. Cool.
Well, you know, I'll have the link for your Twitter in the show notes. You all can still find me on Twitter at FreshBudsPod. You can join the Discord, the Buds. It's a lot of fun over there. If you're listening on YouTube, like, comment, subscribe, all that fun stuff. Check out the Bud Rush Bellow. It's a ton of fun. You get to see me be a little bit sillier than I already am, which I'm silly anyway. And if you listen to the show on like Spotify, iTunes, anything like that, like rate it or leave a review. That helps. And yeah, really appreciate it. Now, Anna, I always like to talk a little bit about food at the end of every episode. Is there any food in general you'd like to talk about, or is there some local cuisine that you'd like to feature?
I'll say I already mentioned Tudor's Biscuit World here a little bit. No, that's why Appalachian food is pretty good, probably very unhealthy. I actually every Tuesday I make an international dish with my friend Ben, and today we made traditional German goulash for Oktoberfest. And then also I want to throw a special shout out there to my mom's manicotti. Like that's why it's the best manicotti on the face of this planet. And I wish that I could share a little bit with every person in this world, because it just makes me that happy. So I'm trying to think, because I love food.
I love food too. Well, the goulash sounds amazing, and it is that time of year. Big Oktoberfest guy myself. Now, I hope the buds out there find your mom's manicotti, and shout out to Anna's mom. It sounds amazing. I love manicotti. Yeah.
If you guys ever come to West Virginia, let me know. I'll invite you for dinner. Like, I mean, you can hold me to that. I'll make you manicotti.
Oh, I'm there. Now, that's going to do it for today, buds. Everybody, please have a spooky month and excellent weekend. We will all talk soon. Levia is not my forte.